Welcome back to Cactus Wrestling. We have a very exciting video. We are doing Cactus Wrestling NCAA rankings. We're getting in on the rankings. You have Internet, you have Flow, you have WrestleStat. Now you have Cactus rankings. And since the season is less than a month away, it's time to dive in and preview each of the 10 weight classes for the 23-24 NCAA wrestling season. Before we get started, though, make sure you hit that like button and drop a comment down below. Hit that subscribe button as well so that you can help out Cactus Wrestling. So without further ado, drum roll, I'm going to share the screen and we're going to dive into the 125-pound rankings. Bam. There they are in the flesh. Surprise, surprise, Matt Ramos. Okay, so let's just start off with this. I kind of went through and ordered this, and the mics here are going to, we're going to talk about this. These aren't necessarily set in stone yet, but we also have Flow, Internet, and WrestleStat rankings side by side just to kind of compare where they're currently at. But number one, I put Richie Figueroa of Arizona State, a name that many of you probably don't know if you're just kind of like a casual college wrestler, because he wasn't the starter for Arizona State last year. He was behind Brandon Courtney. He redshirted. But this guy, I mean, we were just talking about it off camera. He has some big wins under his belt.
Oh, yeah. Richie Figg's biggest win last year was over a pretty tough wrestler in the Cliff Keen finals. He won 3-2 on December 3rd over a Matt Ramos, who is also on this list, as you might find. So he has a head-to-head victory over him.
Yeah, and that's all three other ones unanimous number one ranked guy because he's the returning national runner-up. So, I mean, I don't think it's that far-fetched to put it Figs ahead of him, although he has never been in a national tournament. So
true.
And he's never wrestled as a starter. So, I mean, he had 14 matches in his redshirt season, but he hasn't done the whole dual meet circuit, wrestled in multiple tournaments, conference tournaments, postseason, any of that. But sure, all the other ranking services have him 3, 3, and 5. So clearly he's on the radar, but points to Matt Ramos off of his big NCAA tournament last year. But we were just talking about this, the Spencer Lee win really propelled him to the next level. Had he not won that match, I feel like people wouldn't be as high on Matt Ramos.
For sure.
Oh, that's 100% true. Yeah, no, because had he lost that, he might not have even been in the third, fourth place match. There's no saying that he would have just guaranteed won that. So I mean, he had a great tournament. He had a phenomenal historic win, but I don't know that he necessarily would have beat Courtney in the Conci semis. I mean, Courtney went on to take third, and that's the guy that was ahead of Richie Figs.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And Courtney has also been in the finals before. So, I mean, that he's been training with this guy. I mean, the more you know about the guy, I feel like the less outlandish it is to put him ahead of Ramos, even though that is on the top of the 125 rankings here.
And don't forget, Matt Ramos got majored by Michael D'Agostino at the Big Ten Championships.
Yeah, 2 weeks before NCAAs.
And you'll see Michael D'Agostino is number 10 on this list, which I feel like he's got some mixed rankings, 12, 8, 7. I mean, this is a guy who's going to Michigan this year.
Yep.
Who, I mean, he could be potential Nick Sirianni going to Michigan and winning a title, potentially. Who knows?
I mean, I don't see D'Agostino pulling that off, but that's a bold take. But yeah, no, I mean, him being at Michigan definitely changes things. I mean, look, even his 10-9 record is kind of why it wasn't surprising to see him kind of go over at NCAAs. Even though he was coming off of being ranked like top 5 all year, and he was the returning top 4 in the nation the year before. So
I think this weight class has definitely opened up. I mean, you look at the returning All-Americans, there's only 3: Ramos, Anthony Noto, and Eddie Ventresca. And I was just saying this off camera. Eddie Ventresca is everyone's number 4, but the guy had 10 losses last year. He didn't even win the ACC championships. The only reason I think that he's that high, I guess we have him as what, number 6? The only reason he's that high is because he's All-American and no one else returning is an All-American. So is like a guy like Eddie
from last
Ventresca,
season, because
right?
there are people, that All-American 2-3 years ago, but
And that's why I put Pat McKee and Eric Barnett higher, because those guys, they were round of 16, round of 12, very close to that All-American, but they're also 2-time All-Americans themselves.
yeah.
So I feel like Eddie Ventresca going on kind of a 3 to 4 match, good tournament. That's kind of hard to outweigh the historic performances from 2 guys like McKee and Barnett.
Yeah, I mean that's a strong argument there. Even though, I mean McKee's ranked pretty low comparatively on the other 3. But I mean he had those crazy where tournaments where he tore up the backside of the consolation bracket. So he was on fire those tournaments. Didn't quite have that magic last year, but I feel like he's probably got something to prove this year. And like you said, the weight class really has opened up. I wouldn't be really like shocked if any of these guys came out on top. Like none of them are like step and above the rest of the field. Like any one of these guys could knock off any one of these guys.
Well, also Pat McKee, I just pulled it up. These were his losses last year. He lost to Liam Cronin, Matt Ramos, Spencer Lee, Eric Barnett, Spencer Lee, Matt Ramos, Eric Barnett, Eddie Ventresca, and Dean Peterson.
So he lost to all the same guys, Dean Peterson and Eddie Ventresca.
Right. And Dean Peterson, obviously, we have as number 8. He was around the 12 guys, a freshman last year. Great tournament. I feel like there's a lot of those freshmen that had really good runs. Ventresca, Stevo Poulin, Dean Peterson, Brett Unger, all kind of round of 12 guys, except for Ventresca, kind of lined up in the 6, 7, 8, 9 in the rankings here. So I know we have to talk about this guy because he's a Connecticut native. Everyone's super high on Jacob Camacho. Where do you guys see him coming in after his injury redshirt last year?
Jacob Camacho's got the All-American potential, and we know this, but we haven't quite seen it. It was huge for him to, and again, I know this is a freestyle to folk style comparison, but how he tore up
Glory.
He beat Glory. He beat the national champ after the nationals.
Exactly. And you say, okay, well, that's freestyle versus folk style, but it's got the neutral game that's so important to these 125s and the ability to turn from top.
And that match where he won it, 8 of those points were off of the same leg lace.
Yeah.
So he got one takedown and one leg lace 4 times.
So that's where you say, like, okay, well, on one hand, freestyle had to get a takedown, had to be good on top, theoretically. On the other hand, it's like, okay, well, it was a takedown and then just roll. So, what did we learn from that? And then seeing Camacho not wrestle for the U23 spot.
Oh yeah, that was
weird. Very interesting. And say, okay, well, why? Why not wrestle at Final X? For True Third, why not go for the U23 spot? Is he hurt again? What's actually going on with Jacob Camacho? And I think that a healthy Camacho can go very, very far. But with his injury history, who really knows?
Yeah, and he's never All-American before. I feel like guys are very especially Flo, I feel like is always high on these NC State guys. They have him as number 8.
Yeah,
He's been around 12, round of 16. I don't know. I see him kind of being in that same area, but the one thing that he has going for him is this weight class is just so open
It's
this year. I
empty.
feel like there's
Yeah.
no like hammers like we've seen
yeah,
in years past.
yeah, it's true. The Hammers are now being developed and making the names for themselves, and in a couple of years they're gonna be the Hammers. But right now, uh, not so much. I honestly, yeah, I don't. I kind of am pegging Camacho to maybe be where he's been, round 12, round 16, something like that. Like I feel like he hasn't since he's kind of made the round 12 and round 16 and whatnot, he hasn't really displayed that he's gonna get to that next level of making the podium there. Um, even when he's had a really high seed. So I am skeptical to say that he'll perform higher than that.
And it sucks because Jarrett Trombley, who was the guy last year, he did very well for NC
Well,
State.
he almost beat Ramos. He almost upset him. It was like a crazy come from behind from Ramos. He had like 3 of those in a row.
Yeah, Matt Ramos almost. Yeah, he should arguably shouldn't even have been in the finals
Yeah,
because of
the
the crazy
Spencer
matches.
Lee match. He had the crazy match with Tremblay, and then he had the
Yep,
crazy match with what's his Cardinale.
yep,
Where he got the takedown within the last 4 seconds. Like, had any of
But
those matches not gone his way, he's not in the finals. Like,
yep. Yeah, it's interesting. It's always fun to see guys like Brett Unger, who lost to a high schooler, be ranked number 9.
Jack's Forest is pretty good though.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Where do
Jack's
we put
Force is
him on
what,
these rankings?
sophomore?
We should have Jack's Forest in these rankings.
Yeah.
As a high school sophomore.
I think we talked about everyone in the top 12 except for Caleb Smith, who transferred to Nebraska this year.
Yeah, that's
He was
interesting.
a high seed at NCAAs. He had a tough tournament.
Yeah, he was
Um,
the 5 seed, and he did not do that.
right, but I'm interested to see him moving to Nebraska if he's gonna kind of elevate his game. Just being in that room, even though where was he? Oregon State? No,
No, app.
App State. Yeah, so that's a big upgrade in terms of like training room. Um, so I don't know. I think Caleb Smith he's one of those guys where he has a strong in season record, but he hasn't proven anything at the postseason yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, he went 0-2 as the 5 seed. He
Yeah,
lost to Agostino and Cardinale. Cardinale, at least, you know, All
All
American.
American. Yeah, that's a
D'Agostino, I
tough
think,
draw
lost his
though.
next match.
That is a tough draw though. Killian Cardinale should not have been the 28 seed.
Yeah, that was.
There's no right in that happening. And then D'Agostino's a 2-time right, no, a 1-time All American.
Yeah, but I mean, his record was crap.
Yeah, I
So,
guess. But
yeah.
we listed some all honorable mentions as well. Drake Ayala, we got to talk about him because Iowa is going to be like, oh, he should definitely be in the top 5. What do you guys think about Drake Ayala?
I don't know about jumping right out the gate into the top 5. He definitely has shown flashes of brilliance, but then also, I mean, Pat McKee's one guy that he can't seem to figure out how to beat, and he's wrestled him like a ton of times. So, I mean, he could definitely work his way up these, um, but I don't think right out the gate he's going to be there. I think he's someone that could climb the rankings, but um, is his one loss to Spencer Lee?
From
That
last year?
isn't the
Last
13 and
year,
1? Was that when
think,
he got pinned by Spencer Lee?
yeah.
He
So
got yeah.
that's practically undefeated.
I mean, granted, probably didn't have a high level of competition,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we did a cactus poll, and we got 103 votes as of this
Nice.
recording. 52% seem to think that Matt Ramos will win the next NCAA tournament at 125 pounds. Richie Figueroa got 26%, Anthony Noto 10, DiAugustino 7, and Pat McKee 5. And then the comments, I can't forget about the comments. There was a Jacob Camacho shout out, another Camacho, very dangerous comment. Steve O'Poulin and Eddie Ventresca were also mentioned in that poll. So if you haven't voted, check out Cactus Wrestling and vote for who you think is going to win.
Yeah, for sure.
Who are your guys' picks? Who do you think is going to win this?
Matt Ramos.
Ooh, Ramos.
Pretty confident.
I think Matt Ramos has improved a lot since he's, lost to Richie Figs. That was 3 months before the NCAAs. I think that he wrestled pretty close in the NCAA finals. I know a lot of people thought that, and I don't know if you guys have dealt with this too, but people are like, oh yeah, like Matt Ramos, he's the guy that won the national championship over Spencer Lee. And I was like, oh, it was the semis actually, but he's pretty good, yeah. He ended up losing the next match, but hey, that's okay.
Right.
I think that I wouldn't be surprised to see Camacho as an All-American, Ayala as an All-American, and Robbie Howard as an All-American, who is my Penn State bias. But
oh yeah, we didn't talk about Robbie Howard
on the list.
No,
we didn't even put him on the list.
That's okay. We let our haters be our motivators.
That's because Penn State just does not perform at 125.
Not recently, but they have to eventually. I mean, Jack's Force is going to commit there, so they're going to have to eventually.
I think we're going to see a weird final. I feel like it's going to be like Pat McKee versus Anthony Noto or something.
Eddie Ventresca versus Caleb Smith.
I mean, I could see McKee making the finals and taking second. I don't see McKee with the title. I feel like he's going to just fall short. Even if he's like the heavy favorite, it's like Brett Unger on Pat McKee. Unger's going to win. But
you know what I also want to see? I want to see Jarrett Trombley transfer out of NC State, because then we'll have 3 guys who have transferred out of NC State because Camacho has locked down that spot. Because Anthony Noto and Steve O'Poulin, for those of you who didn't know, were at NC State, never started for them, and then transferred out.
It's funny because it's not the first time that's happened at NC State. The same thing happened with Ryan Jack and Bryce Meredith.
Kevin Jack and Bryce Meredith. Yeah. Interesting stuff.
Like,
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, your talent just transfers.
Those Danbury kids just holding it down.
So there you guys have it. That is our 125-pound preview. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Who did we miss? Where did we mess up? What do you think? Who do you think is going to win if you haven't done the poll already? And drop a comment down below. What do you think of our rankings? And stay tuned, because we're doing every single weight class. 133 will be up next. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe as well.